As a result, we are no longer to be children, tossed here and there by waves, and carried about by every wind of doctrine, by the trickery of men, by craftiness and deceitful scheming. Ephesians 4, verse 14. As a result, sometimes the message delivered by the thundering voice of the recorder frightened man's soul, and people reported it to Diabolus. He told them that what the old gentleman said was not because of love or pity for them. He explained it as a foolish fondness he has for prattling about trivial matters, and that the old man would eventually be quiet again. But in fact, every outcry Mr. Recorder made against the sin of man's soul was the voice of God in him to them. But Diabolus, the liar and deceiver, twisted the people's perception and forced every argument he could think of to make his position in man's soul secure. He often said, "Oh, man's soul, consider that in spite of the old gentleman's rage and the rattle of his high and thundering words, you hear nothing from Shaddai himself. You see, he doesn't value the loss or rebellion of the town of man's soul. Neither will he trouble himself with calling his town to a reckoning for their giving themselves to me. He knows that though you were his, now you are lawfully mine. So he now has shaken his hands at us, leaving us to one another." Then he said, "Consider how I have served you to the full extent of my power, and with the best I have, could get or obtain for you in the entire world. Likewise, the laws and customs you are under now, and by which you show me reverence, yield more comfort and peace for you than the paradise you first possessed. Your freedom, as you very well know, has been expanded by me. I found you a bridle to people, and freed you. I have laid no restraints on you. I have placed no law, statute, or judgment on you to frighten you, and I call none of you into account for your actions, except the madman. You know who I mean. I have granted each of you the opportunity to live like princes, with as little control from me as I myself have from you." In such a manner, Diabolus quieted the town of man's soul at the times when the recorder battered the people with his cursed speeches. For the old gentleman's lectures set the whole town in a rage against him. The crew of scoundrels of man's soul often called for the recorder's destruction, and in my hearing often wished he lived 1,000 miles away from them. He and his company, his words, and yes, even the sight of him, especially when they remembered how he threatened, condemned, and severely terrified and afflicted them. But now when they looked at him, all they saw was a man of corrupted character. However, all their ill wishes were fruitless. I don't know how his life was preserved among them except that he served Shaddai and his wisdom. Besides, his house was as strong as a castle and stood firm as a stronghold in the town. Furthermore, if any of the crew or mob attempted to make the recorder go away, he could pull open the floodgates and let in such floods as would drown all those around him. Scripture: "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the defense of my life. Whom shall I dread? When evildoers came upon me to devour my flesh, my adversaries and my enemies, they stumbled and fell." Psalm 27, verse 1 and 2. But I want to leave the subject of Mr. Recorder for now and talk about Lord Wilby-Will, who had good breeding and was another of those educated elite of the famous town of man's soul. This Wilby-Will was as highborn as any man in man's soul, and if I remember right, owned more land than many of the others. In fact, he had privileges unique to himself in the famous town. He was also a man of great strength, determination, and courage, and no one could ignore his influence. But whether he was proud of his estate, privileges, strength, or what, I cannot say, but it was through pride of something that he was as despised as a slave in man's soul. As a result, he decided to acquire an office under Diabolus, even if it might be as an insignificant ruler or governor. Being such a determined individual, he wasted no time. He placed himself to be considered for such a position. When Diabolus made his speech at Eargate, Wilby Will stepped forward as one of the first to consent to and accept Diabolus's counsel as wholesome. He was also one of the first who was willing to open the gate to let the enemy of Shaddai into the town. As a result, Diabolus felt goodwill toward him and planned a place for him among his great ones to act in matters of the highest concern. For Diabolus perceived the valor and strength of the man. He sent for Wilby Will and talked with him about this secret matter in order to set it in his heart. But in this case, it took very little persuasion. For from the beginning, he was willing for Diabolus to be allowed into the town, and now proved to be just as willing to serve him. When the tyrant recognized the willingness of Wilby Will to serve him, and that his mind was inclined to stand with him, Diabolus made him the captain of the castle, governor of the wall, and keeper of the gates of Mansoul. His commission included a clause which said nothing could be done in all the town of Mansoul without him. It was second only to Diabolus himself, and nothing could be done except by his will and pleasure. Diabolus also had Mr. Mind for his clerk. This man spoke on every matter like his master, for he and his lord were unified in principle and not far apart in practice. As a result, Mansoul was brought under the influence of the plan and made to fulfill the lusts of the will and of the mind. But I cannot stop thinking about what an eager one this Wilby Will was when power was put into his hand. First, he flatly denied he owed any obedience or service to his former prince and faithful lord. Once he did this, he also took an oath and swore loyalty and faithfulness to his great master Diabolus. With this done, he was advanced and settled into his new rank and higher position, and you wouldn't believe the strange work this workman accomplished in the town of Mansoul unless you witnessed it with your own eyes. First, Wilby Will slandered Mr. Recorder, Conscience, to death, and he wouldn't even look at him or listen to the words of his mouth. Wilby Will would shut his eyes when he saw him and cover his ears when he heard him speak. He couldn't tolerate even a fragment of the law of Shaddai to be seen anywhere in the town. For example, his clerk, Mr. Mind, had some old torn parchments of the law of Shaddai in his house. But when Wilby Will saw them, Mr. Mind flung them behind his back. Mr. Recorder had some of the laws in his study, but Wilby Will had no way to get at them. He also said, "The windows of old Lord Mayor's house are always too light for the benefit of the town of Mansoul." He couldn't endure the light of a candle at this time, and nothing pleased Wilby Will at all except for what pleased Diabolus, his lord. Scripture. For everyone who does evil hates the light, and does not come to the light, for fear that his deeds will be exposed. John 3, verse 20. No one else proclaimed the superior nature, shrewd conduct, and great pride of the king Diabolus like him. Scripture. Those who forsake the law praise the wicked, but those who keep the law strive with him. Proverbs 28, verse 4. Wilby Will traveled throughout the streets of Mansoul and shouted out in a loud voice for all to hear about his illustrious lord. He even disguised himself to appear like one cast out as worthless among the immoral and disreputable crowd for an opportunity to speak out about his former prince. And I tell you that whenever he found these mindless wards, he made himself like one of them and participated in every evil way without needing an invitation or command. Scripture. When you see a thief, you are pleased with him, and you associate with adulterers. You let your mouth loose in evil, and your tongue frames deceit. You sit and speak against your brother. You slander your own mother's son. These things you have done, and I kept silence. You thought that I was just like you. I will reprove you and state the case in order before your eyes. Psalm 50, verses 18 through 21. Lord Wilby Will also had a deputy under him, and his name was Mr. Affection. He too was greatly corrupted in his principles, and lived his life accordingly. He wholly gave himself over to the world, so they called him Vile Affection. Now he and carnal Lust, the daughter of Mr. Mind, were the same sort. With the two so well matched, they fell in love and married. As I understand it, they had several children, including Impudent, Darkmouth, and Hate Reproof. These three were atrociously bad. And besides these, they had three daughters, Scorn Truth and Slight God, and the name of the
Oh,
youngest
fuck.
was Revenge.
Oh, yes.
These grew up and were all married in the town, and yielded vile offspring, too many to list here. When the giant had established and protected himself with the garrison in the town of Mansoul, and had removed some from office, and set up others whom he thought had the qualities he desired, he took it upon himself to deface any representation of the blessed King Shaddai. For example, in the marketplace in Mansoul and upon the gates of the castle, an image of the blessed king was so accurately engraved in gold that it closely resembled Shaddai himself, more than anything else in the world. With despicable meanness, Diabolus commanded this image to be defaced, and No Truth shamelessly accomplished the deed. In the same manner in which Diabolus commanded the image of Shaddai be defaced by the hand of Mr. No Truth, he likewise ordered him to set up in its place the horrid and dreadful image of Diabolus, as a way to show great contempt for the former king, and degrade his town of Mansoul. Diabolus also laid waste to all that remained of the laws and statutes of Shaddai in the town of Mansoul. This included anything that contained the teaching of morals within all the civil documents, and even laws which governed events and natural things like feelings. He even sought to eliminate any punishments related to these. In brief, nothing good remained in man's soul that he and Will-be-Will didn't seek to destroy. For their plan was to turn man's soul into a brute savage at heart, and make it like a carnal swine by the hand of No Truth. After Diabolus destroyed what he could of the law and the good condition of the town, he pushed the influence of his plan even further. His goal was to alienate man's soul from Shaddai, her king. To accomplish this, he commanded worthless edicts, statutes, and commandments be set in all places of active power or assembly in man's soul. These changes provided freedom to practice the lusts of the flesh, including the lusts of the eyes and the pride of life, which are not of Shaddai but are of the world. Scripture. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the boastful pride of life, is not from the Father, but is from the world. 1 John 2, verse 16. He encouraged, reproved, and promoted ungodliness, and the abandonment of lustful restraint. Scripture. Now the deeds of the flesh are evident, which are immorality, impurity, sensuality,
That's where
idolatry,
they are.
sorcery,
Blocks the coal.
enmity, strife, jealousy,
Ah,
outbursts of
you
anger,
fucker. I forgot to do that. Oh, well.
disputes, dissensions, factions, envying, drunkenness, carousing, and things like these. Galatians 5:19 through 21. Diabolus did this and more to encourage wickedness in the town of Mansoul. He promised them peace, contentment, joy, and pleasure by following his commands. Scripture. The seed which fell among the thorns, these are the ones who have heard. And as they go on their way, they are choked with worries and riches and pleasures of this life, and bring no fruit to maturity. Luke 8, verse 14. You will never have to answer to anyone for not doing the opposite, he promised. Instead, this will serve as a sample for those who love to hear about things done far off in other countries, things they know nothing about.
I took off your guys.
firmly united to you,
You still there?
and I am unwilling to leave you. In fact, I am willing to stand and fall with you, even if the greatest risk or danger were to befall me.
It's a mod.
What do you say, my
Add-on,
man-soul?
really.
Will you desert your old friend now, or will you stand with me? They cried out in one accord, "Let him who does not stand with you die." Scripture. And it was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast would even speak, and cause as many as do not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Revelation 13, verse 15. A smile of satisfaction tugged at the corner of Diabolus's thin lips for a brief moment. It is worthless for us to hope for sympathy, for this king doesn't know how to show it. True, when he first sits down to talk before us, he may talk of and pretend to show mercy, but only to put you at ease, so you cause less trouble. He will only do this to make himself the master of man's soul again. Therefore, don't believe a single word of anything he says, for his words will be designed to overcome us, make us the trophies of his merciless victory, while we wallow in our blood. In my mind, I have
How the hell
determined
is
we should
this
agree
not?
to resist him to the last man, and not to believe him on any terms. For our danger will come through that door in the guise of merciful words. But shall we be flattered out of our lives? I hope you understand the basics of politics enough not to permit yourselves to be served so pitifully. Suppose he gets us to surrender, or even saves some of our lives, or the lives of some minions in Mansoul. What help will that be to you? You who are the most important people of the town, especially you whom I have set up, you who have attained greatness by your faithful support to me. And suppose he should spare the life of every one of you, you can be sure he will bring you under that same bondage with which you were made a prisoner before, or worse. Then what good will your lives do you? Do you think you will live in pleasure with him as you do now under me? The answer to that is no. With him, you must be bound by laws that will oppress you with want, and you'll be made to do the very things you loathe now. I am ready to stand with you, if you are ready to stand with me. For it is better to die valiantly than to live like pitiful slaves. But I say the life of a slave will be counted a life too good for man's soul now. Diabolus shook his head sadly. Blood. Blood. Nothing but blood is in every blast of Shaddai's trumpet against poor man's soul. I entreat you, be concerned. I hear he's coming. Stand up and grab your weapons now so I can teach you some feats of war while we still have time. I have armor, fit for man's soul to cover you from the top of your head to your toes. If you wear this, you cannot be hurt by what his forces do, as long as you keep it well secured, fastened about you. For this purpose, I welcome you to my castle. Come and equip yourselves for the war. There is a helmet, breastplate, sword, shield, and whatnot that will prepare you to fight like men. My helmet is worn in the hope of doing well for the rest of your lives.
You fucking
Those who
niggers.
have worn this reported
I'm gonna
having
kill you.
peace, even though they walked in the wickedness of their heart in order to add drunkenness to thirst. Whoever can keep possession of this piece of approved armor cannot be hurt by any arrow, dart, sword, or shield. For this reason, keep it on.
I'll fucking slit your goddamn throat.
My man's soul. My breastplate is a breastplate of iron. I had it forged in my own country, and all my soldiers there are armed with one. In plain language, it is a hard heart. A heart as hard as iron, but as much past feeling as a stone. If you get it, then keep it. Mercy shall not win you, and judgment will not frighten you. For this reason, this is a most necessary piece of armor for all to
The
put
hell's
on
up with
who hate
this thing?
Shaddai, and
Hold
are
on,
willing
guys.
to fight against him under my banner.
How do I get my cart to go fast instead of slow in Minecraft? You can use powered rails. Placing powered rails along the track and supplying them with redstone power will increase the speed of the minecart. Okay, hold on. Okay, so let me see if a block will yeah, this should give you 6 powered rails. Keep in mind that the power rails need to be powered so you can use any other type of redstone power source. Torch, redstone block, etc. Powered rails Minecraft. Powered rails Minecraft.
Going into an office, working 50 hours a week, having that structure. I knew that I wanted.
Minecraft has a whole system of items, rails, and minecarts designed to create transportation systems for mobs, items, and players. So in this video I'll explain everything about them. So of course for the fundamentals of minecarts and rails, basically how it works is that for every type of minecart they also need to be on top of rails. Of course in certain scenarios minecarts need power to go higher up, and there's different types of minecarts and different types of rails that all serve different purposes. Also, basically any mob or player can get inside of minecarts if they're the right size, and there's a ton of redstone purposes surrounding all these different components. Let's start with rails. What are the main types of rails and how do they work? Well, there are 4 rail types: powered, detector, rail, and activator rail. Powered rails are crafted with gold, 1 stick, and redstone dust, and that gives you 6. And then standard rails are crafted with 6 iron ingots and 1 stick, and that gives you 16. Rails are crafted with gold, 1 stick, and redstone dust, and that gives you 6. And then standard rails are crafted with 6 iron ingots and 1 stick, and that gives you 16 rails. The activator rail is crafted with 2 sticks, 1 redstone torch, and 6 iron ingots. And finally detector rail, redstone dust, and that gives you 6. And then standard rails are crafted with 6 iron ingots and 1 stick, and that gives you 16 rails. The activator with detector rail and activator rail. Powered rails are crafted with gold, 1 stick, and redstone dust, and that gives you 6. And then standard rails are crafted with 6 iron ingots and 1 stick, and that gives you 16 rails. The activator rail is crafted with 2 sticks, 1 redstone torch, and 6 iron ingots. And finally, detector rails don't actually use sticks in their recipe, but they do have 6 iron ingots, 1 stone pressure plate, and redstone dust for 6. Well, let's start with the standard rail. What can it do? Basically, standard rails can be placed almost anywhere you'd like, but something you may notice is that in certain patterns it'll be cut off like this. That's because you can't turn and go upwards at the same time with standard rails. However, another important thing to be aware of is that rails cannot go down 1 block, then up the same block. It just doesn't work. And they cannot go down 2 blocks at once. If you place these in a 2x2, it'll make a circular pattern with rails. And the one big difference between normal rails and all other types of rails is that where normal rails can turn, all other rail types don't actually have a turn variety, they only work going straight. But speaking of other rail types, don't actually have a turn variety, they only work going straight. But speaking of other rail types, let's go on to the powered rail. Powered rails, as you would think, are used to power a minecart. For instance, right here, we could power this minecart and make it go up the hill like this. The thing is, though, with powered rails, you cannot make them go in circular configurations. And so because of that, if you wanted to, let's say, make a circular track that goes infinitely, you'd have to do something like this with powered rails all connected to a redstone torch, or even just to a lever. Either of those will work to power these on. Maybe even a redstone block if you want. Then of course you get on the minecart and have these on. Maybe even a stack that goes infinitely. You'd have to do something like this with powered rails all connected to a redstone torch, or even just to a lever. Either of those will work to power these on. Maybe even a redstone. Block if you want. Then of course you get on the minecart and have that minecart go on there forever. But then to stop it, all we have to do is right click on that again. And something you may notice is it actually stopped really abruptly, and I'll show you why. Let's on this track right here, put a singular unpowered rail, and then let's put right next to it a standard rail, as the power and powered rails will connect other powered rails but cannot go between unpowered rails. So for instance, this line of redstone will keep going this way, but eventually will stop. And actually, if we place powered rails this direction for a long time, eventually they will power off because it's gone far enough away from the torch that there's not enough power for it to continue on, as it goes 8 blocks away from the powered block. But anyway, with this one unpowered rail here, if we place it down on this line and just go down,
get this shit out of here.
Minecraft has a whole system of items, rails, and minecarts designed to create transportation systems for mobs, items, and players. Exponentially power your minecarts to go faster and faster, and so once that minecart gets to a certain speed, it's just going to stay there. And actually, I'll go into a little bit later what the best way is to lay out powered rails to not waste them. Now here's something important, it is the detector rail. Detector rails are almost always used with standard rails and powered rails. Now the opinion tends to be fairly
I have
split
never
on
really
whether or
done
not
this. Oh my
detector
god,
rails
it's
are
fun.
worth it, but more or less here's how they work. If a minecart goes on top of a detector rail, it'll power the other rails next to it, or really will power anything else next to it. It's kind of an alternative to laying out powered rails and just having them always on. With a detector rail, only a minecart can turn those on. So for instance, you could have a setup looking something like this. Instead of the rail, you have a detector rail on either side. It'd kind of go between a bunch of powered rails and then one detector rail. And if you come to a turn, of course, that would change. But generally it would be a system like this. Now the only problem of this tends to be if the minecart gets stopped and you're going on here, it's actually really, really hard to get started again with those powered rails to stay on. The problem is too, because these can power anything around them, if we place down the minecart right here and light it along the track, we could actually have these other blocks of TNT next to the side go off without us being able to control control that or not. And although of course that does make us a very cool self-destructing railway, it is not something that is entirely practical. So overall it's kind of up to you whether or not you use detector rails, but for me personally I do just like using them, as it is kind of cool to see powered rails only be on when you're traveling over them. The only thing that's important to know about detector rails is
This is
they
the
do not
next
work
best
if
thing to.
they're going sideways. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say we have a detector rail right here, and it's kind of in a slope, as of course every rail can be in its flat or sort of sloped position. And when we ride a minecart all the way down here, well, what will happen is as we ride along the track, you'll notice this will turn on, but it will not send power to the rails next to it. It actually will send the power when we're going downwards, but when it's going the opposite direction, you'll see it just does not send the power up. I'm not sure if this is a bug or not, but because of this
I'm
using
gonna
this
beat
design,
him.
you have to be very careful to make sure that this stays powered on. And as well as that, to never let the detector rails be at an angle, or this entire track will be made one way. But fundamentally, you can definitely think of this as a minecart pressure plate. And now finally for the last used rail, and that is the activator rail. The activator rail will basically do only a couple things. And it does need to be powered on for this to happen. So if we ride over that, nothing's going to happen, but if we power it and then ride over it, basically it'll just hop us out of the minecart automatically there, as I did not decide to get out there. It simply automatically got me out of the minecart. So that's the first thing it does, is it ejects mobs from minecarts, which is definitely a funny use, but again, I'm not touching anything. It just automatically drops me out right there. What is interesting though is if the minecart just sits on top of one of these that's powered, it'll actually rotate back and forth like that, which I think is being used to visually represent it trying to get a player out. And because of that, you can actually use this in build to sort of look like a crusher or a grinder of some sort. The only other thing it does is it can disable minecarts with hoppers. So if a hopper minecart goes over one of these, it'll just stop picking up items. Now this is disabled, you can see it definitely is, it's not picking up anything. We can re-enable it by making it roll over a unpowered activator rail. If we throw something next to this now, it'll definitely go into that minecart with hopper. It can also power on a minecart with a command block, or we can ignite a minecart with TNT. Explode like a minecart with TNT normally would if it drops. It'll actually go through a full ignition phase. The rails are a bit expensive, and of course if you're making a huge minecart track, which I would suggest, it definitely takes up to thousands of rails. Here's a good trick to not have to deal with that if you don't mind using duplicators. Basically start by placing an observer going downwards, place another observer going up into that to make an eternally running observer clock, so that's turning on and off. Place a random block on top of it, and a sticky piston going off the side. Hit a lever here, turn it off so this stops going back and forth. Now with the slime blocks, make a long L shape, so put two here, and then off of that, put these other blocks. Now we're going to go on top of here and place the observer like this, so that the redstone dot on the back there is facing the slime. And in here, place whatever types of rails you want to duplicate. You can duplicate any rails you want in Minecraft, it works with every type. If we turn this on by just simply flicking a lever right here, this basically instant rail farm is now done. And you can see here every time it goes back and forth, all those rails there pop off, but they also stay on the actual track. And so because of that, we're getting an insane amount of instantly duplicated free rails. And to be fair, a lot of servers don't allow duplication on them, and a lot of people consider duplicating to be cheating. But it's completely up to you, and it is always a decent method if you don't have an iron farm or a gold farm, and you want to get yourself a ton of rails. Let's move on from rails though, and
Hold on a second.
and to be fair, a lot of servers don't allow duplication on them, and a lot of people consider duplicating to be cheating. But it's completely up to you, and it is always a decent method if you don't have an iron farm or a gold farm, and you want to get yourself a ton of rails. Let's move on from rails though, and go to minecarts. There are 7 different types of minecarts in Minecraft, however only 5 of them are obtainable in survival. First of all, we have the command block minecart, which works basically how you think. If it's over an activator rail, it will turn on. And of course, having a command inside of it, it can definitely be useful for map makers. Next we have the spawner minecart, and the spawner minecart also works very similarly to how you think. It's basically a mobile monster spawner, and it always starts as being a pig spawner. And then of course we have the standard minecart. This is basically used to have one mob inside of it, so unlike let's say a boat, it can only hold one mob, and that is a pretty useful minecart of course. Then there is the minecart chest. Now minecart chests, if you right click on them, can store things inside of it, like right there. So it's sort of a good way of transporting items. And something really good to know about all these different items is that when you break them, they now break as one item. Whereas it used to be you break this and you'd get get the minecart and the chest separately, but now you actually get it as one thing. There's also the furnace minecart. You right click on the furnace minecart with coal, and it's basically its own steam powered train, as long as it's on top of rails, that is, and it'll push things around it for a while. Then we have the minecart separately, but now you actually get it as one thing. There's also the furnace minecart. You right click on the furnace minecart with coal, and it's basically its own steam powered train, as long as it's on top of rails, that is, and it'll push things around it for a while. Then we have the minecart with hopper. This is a super powerful hopper, and for example here, if we throw items above it,
Hold on, I can
like
check something
here,
out right quick.
it is still close enough for it to pick it up. Unlike a standard hopper where things have to be really, really close, this can be used to grab items in a really wide radius near it, which makes it ideal for basically any type of farm. And of course, finally, we have the minecart with TNT. Now, this is more powerful than your standard TNT, as you saw right there. The one piece can actually blow up quite a bit, but because of the expense of the iron associated with them, it's generally not worthwhile. But either way, that is all 7 types of minecarts and what they do. Now, one thing that is important to know is how to actually use the hopper minecarts and the chest minecarts effectively, because of course you can put things in them, but how do you automatically get things out of it? If there is an empty hopper underneath the minecart with hopper, it will take the items inside of it and slowly put them inside that item hopper. And the same is true with the minecart with chest. We put that above here and put items in it, it will also have those items slowly drain down. And if we have a hopper above one of these minecart chests, this will also happen. These will drain from the hopper into the chest. In fact, believe it or not, if you have a hopper minecart beneath the chest, that'll actually take items directly out of a chest, absolutely no hopper needed. But that is fundamentally how you move items around with hopper minecarts and chest minecarts. Alright, so what is the best?
It is 2024, and I'm about to make a video on 4J Studios having a fuzzy banner.
I fucking subscribed to him a long time ago, you sack of shit.
It is 2024, and I'm about to make a video on 4J Studios having a fuzzy banner on their social media. What a time to be alive. On the 22nd of May 2024, 4J Studios updated their Twitter/X banner with a fuzzy banner. For those of you that have been around on my YouTube channel and in the Minecraft community for a very long time, this was what 4J Studios used to do when Minecraft Console Edition, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, etc. was about to get an update, and it was just an indication that something was coming soon. Now, 4J Studios have been very MIA, and it's been for a very good reason, because a few hours later, 4J Studios tweeted saying, introducing the Elements engine from 4J Studios. To find out more, and to help create 4J Studios' future, check out this YouTube video, followed up by this tweet. For more information, join the 4J Studios Discord page. I'll leave that down below. I'm in there with a bunch of the OG Minecraft Console Edition YouTubers. It's a great environment, and we're going to get an insight as to what 4J Studios have been doing over the past couple of years. And what you can see right now is the YouTube video they uploaded. Now, a couple of things before we get into this. I apologize that the video is muted. IBX Toycat watched this during his live stream and received a copyright strike. But I will leave a link down below to the original YouTube video. So what exactly is this? Well, 4J Studios, over the past couple of years, have been busy building their own video game engine. Not only that though, they have confirmed that they will be building a video game inside of this engine. It does seem very Minecraft inspired, but instead of the limitations of just blocks, they've taken this to a whole new level. Now, it has been confirmed that this is called the Elements engine. OG Minecraft Console Edition players know that 4J Studios take a no-nonsense approach, and they wouldn't announce and reveal this unless they were confident it should be publicized. So I think in the coming weeks and months, an even bigger announcement will be coming from 4J Studios. You can also scan this code to join their Discord.
Oh, okay.
Minecraft as a whole did not decide to get out there, it simply automatically got me out of the minecart. So that's the first. rails, let's move on from rails and go to minecarts. There are 7 different types of minecarts in Minecraft, however only 5 of them are obtainable in survival. First of all, we have the command block minecart, which works basically how you'd think. If it's over an activator rail, it'll turn on, and of course having a command inside of it, it can definitely be useful for map makers. Next we have the spawner minecart, and the spawner minecart also works very similarly to how you'd think. It's basically a mobile monster spawner. And it always starts as being a pig spawner. And then of course we have the standard minecart. This is basically used to have one mob inside of it, so unlike let's say a boat, it can only hold one mob, and that is a pretty useful minecart of course. Then there is the minecart chest. Now minecart chests, if you didn't like it, but now you actually get it as one thing. There's also the furnace minecart. You right click on the furnace minecart with coal, and it's basically its own steam powered train, as long as it's on top of rails that is, and it'll push things around it for a while. Then we have the minecart with hopper. This is a super powerful hopper, and for example here, if we stick radius near it, which makes it ideal for basically any type of farm. And of course finally we have the minecart with TNT. Now this is more powerful than your standard TNT, as you saw right there. The one piece can actually blow up quite a bit, but because of the expense of the iron associated with them, it's generally not worthwhile. But either way, that is all 7 types of minecarts and what they do. Now one thing that is important to know is how to actually use the hopper minecarts and the chest minecarts effectively, because of course you can put things in them, but how do you automatically get things out of it? If there is an empty hopper underneath the minecart with hopper, it will take the items inside of it and slowly put them inside that item hopper. And the same is true with the minecart with chest. If we put that above here and put items in it, it will also have those items slowly drain down. If we have a hopper above one of these minecart chests, this will also happen. These will drain from the hopper into the chest. In fact, believe it or not, if you have a hopper minecart beneath the chest, that'll actually take items directly out of a chest, absolutely no hopper needed. And that is fundamentally how you move items around with hopper minecarts and chest minecarts. Alright, so what is the best pattern for your minecart tracks? Now there are some very strange patterns you can do where you basically have minecart circles going into each other, and this sort of makes it so that your minecart is going from corner to corner to corner. Although this is technically one of the fastest configurations you can do, the problem is it actually takes so much time to set it up, it basically removes any benefit of actually doing it. However, that is technically an option you can do. If we're looking at standard configurations, let's start with some tests. What's quicker, if we have this minecart track going over this very long distance going up and down, or on the flat distance? If we took this minecart rail and laid it out flat, it would definitely be a lot longer than this one, as it's of course sort of squinched up like that. So if we place a redstone torch right here, which one goes faster? Well, if you take a look, they're basically going at the exact same speed. And the reason for this is because in the Minecraft code, the amount of time it takes for a minecart to go up and down rails is the exact same time it takes, whether it's going across one or going up one like this. And so just be aware of that when planning out travel distances. It absolutely does not matter whatsoever if the minecart is going up or down, just only how long it actually goes in terms of blocks. But it is very expensive to use only powered rails, so what's the minimum amount of powered rails necessary? If we do a pattern something like this minecart will keep going. We can visibly see it slow and speed up again. We put a minecart here and here. We already know these two run at the same speed, so we're basically testing between these two. Which one of these ones will go faster? Let's take a look. If we see, those are actually going at the exact same speed, which again is very good news. However, if we have, let's say, a minecart over here and a minecart over here, you'll notice this one is going way faster than that one. It was actually started after that one, but it came to the finish line first. So you do want to add some powered rails to kind of get a speed boost first, but after that there's actually no benefit of powered rails unless they're more than every 4 blocks apart. And so next time you're laying out your minecart track, I definitely recommend that pattern. Having one powered rail for unpowered, one powered for powered. This is especially good if you're not using a rail duplicator, because then you're still getting maximum power, but you're also not having to use too many powered rails. Now this works great for straight line minecart tracks, or ones that just go one direction and then slowly go to the other direction. But how do you actually make junctions with your minecart tracks? Well, this can of course only be done with standard rails, because they're the only type of minecart track that can turn, but here's a good example of one. We have a junction like this. We want to have the ability to have our minecart go straight forward or to the side. Well, all you have to do, place down a lever next to that and flick it. You'll notice when we flick this, it'll go between those two orientations. And so now for writing our minecart track, We can switch this last minute to go that direction, or switch it again to make it go this direction. And of course this works the other way as well, either going this way, or if we turn it, going that way. If you want to do this so it's not just a lever sticking to the side of a minecart, what you can do is have a redstone torch underneath here, so the torch is directly powering this block that has that minecart rail on it, and then have redstone go into the back of that block, and have that redstone go a ways away, of course, and then from there you can have that leading to a lever, or whatever power source you want it to be. In fact, it could even be something as simple as a detector rail, and when we turn this is also turning its direction, so you can kind of see that. So whatever you decide to do, that is how you make a minecart junction. And of course these can be automated as well. For instance, this could go to a detector rail. How do you transport mobs in minecarts though? Well, there's a couple questions to this. The first one I guess would be, how do you even pick up the mobs? A really important fact to know about mobs is that the vast majority of them will not cross rails. That's right, for instance, we could surround this sheep in rails, and if we do surround that sheep all the way, it'll never cross those rails. We could even straight up punch a sheep inside of here, and it'll not try and cross those rails. Now, for whatever reason, minecarts will tend to pick up mobs the easiest if they're on a corner rail like this. So, for instance, we could push this sheep right into the minecart, and then push the minecart onto that corner. And if that sheep was actually still there at the same time, because of course once we pushed it onto that corner it can then cross the rails, we now have that sheep captured inside the minecart. Now of course this is mostly for villagers, so what you want to do is push this towards the edge, push that villager, support mobs and minecarts. Something really cool I did on this specific Minecraft world is make a massive rail transportation network. And I'll try and show you very briefly what you want to do as well. The first thing is to plan it out very extensively. You'll notice all around these maps are these long lines. Those are the minecart tracks, and I've marked them out by having them be on top of wood, or by having path blocks on either side. And so for instance, there's a minecart track that goes across here, then one that goes through here and over here down to here. These are actually incredibly large minecart tracks, so step one is planning it. Then you want to build a railway station, and make sure to have at the railway station a bunch of minecarts and different signs that lead you to different areas. So for instance, we go on this track right here, we have the configuration of the powered and the detector rails, and all these sections start with kind of like a subway type track, because they're underground for a while as they go underneath the city, but after that then they eventually go above ground. So for instance right here we were just going underneath a river there, and once we get to the other side we'll eventually appear on the other side of the river. What's really cool is, let's say from this station we can continue on going to other areas. This will say this goes to the central city station, this one to the north central village station, but more or less that's how you make a series of minecart tracks and stations. It's actually pretty simple, you just want to make sure that it is a fairly easy system to use. Also, there are some really cool automations people can do, so for instance having your minecarts be broken by cactus, or automatically dispensed by dispensers. It is a very good idea before you decide to make your minecart track what kind of configuration you want to use. Also, as something now very important to know, minecarts and rails can now totally work even if they're underwater. So for instance right here, if we go on this minecart track, you can see we can actually travel all the way across here underwater inside of here. It just is a bit slower underwater, but still kind of a fun option if you want to. You can have all your minecart rides be underwater. You just need to make sure to have yourself some water breathing, or you could definitely drown. But it could still definitely be a fun thing with minecarts to make a small section that dips underwater. Anyway, that is everything about minecarts in Minecraft. If you enjoyed the video,
The least I could do is like
Minecraft has a whole system of items, rail.
mystical sausage. Mystical sausage. Mystical sausage. Whoa.
Fancy feast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Minecraft SOS. Oh, hi. You're probably asking yourself, Sausage, why are you dressed so pretty today? Well, today there's a little competition called the Big Hole Off of 2024. Well, I don't think it's called that. I'm calling it that. It sounds really cool and catchy. But today we're heading into Pix's Hole for the last time. Well, the last time before the hole is completely all dug out. I'm gonna go to the hole so so many times after this, you don't understand. Pix's Hole is a national treasure. I'll be there all the time. But specifically today, we're going to get into teams of 3. And whoever reaches the bottom on the last remaining pillars will win fake coins. That's right. We need them, right? People might actually die to this, but you know what? It's not the first or last time somebody has died inside Pix's Hole. But also, in the meantime, I can work on the Pillager versus Villager challenge as well. We got a whole week left before we got to finish that up. And I still haven't said hello, everybody, and welcome back to Minecraft.
Whoa!
Alright, you know what? Ollie caused problems for us, so, Yes! We literally won! Oh, got it. Deal! I have so much wheat. See? Good deed is coming. Good deed is coming. All these hay bales will be for your animals. I will go do a breach.
Do you like anything done for you today?
Oh, I would like something done for me today, actually. Bring it up here. Okay, you know what? I'll leave it. Now we're gonna take a little break from the villager versus pillager task session. Because you know what? I think I need to do a little bit of building. After such a stressful day, it always relaxes me, right? And last episode we built this beautiful, amazing village for Flip, and he definitely improved. Trust me, he loves this village. But something that's missing is a nice little keep, a nice tiny little baby castle here on the top of this hill, just to overlook the village, right? And nothing too crazy big, so it's not gonna be like a giant castle or anything. It's gonna be like a nice little manor house, a tiny little keep up here. And I have been collecting some material. Let me show you what I got. There we go. We got these lovely blocks, and this will be perfect to build ourselves our little starter castle keep thing. That we're gonna build. Be perfect to build ourselves our little starter castle keep thing that we're gonna build up here. So let's get started.
Hold on, guys. Just amazing how this dude makes the most beautiful builds ever. Mm.
The mini castle slash keep, it is finished here in the village, and it's looking really cool. And there it is. Look at the sight lines. I love this. When you look up through the village street here, and you see the tower there in the distance. Oh, that looks so cool with the banners around. Oh, and by the way, I did pick a name from you guys suggested in the comment section of the last video what to call Fwip's village here, and we're gonna go with the Fwipstone. And this was by Sinarka 850. I said that so bad. Please forgive me. I'm just gonna say Sid. Thank you so much. And welcome to Fwipstone Keep up here. I'm just calling that for now. But if you guys got a good name for the keep up top, give me your suggestions right now. But as we come on up the stairs, do a little turny, turn. This is so fun. I don't think I've ever had a build with so many different ways around and inside. It's like a little labyrinth in here. But we're gonna start off here with the path. We got a little outside stable. This could have been a stable, but I'm using it almost like an outside shed here on the corner bit. We got a way in through here. We got a way in through the bottom over here. We even have a little spiral that goes up to that section of the tower, and a lot of stony bits.
God damn. Where's the tutorials, damn you? Hold on, you guys. I gotta find out.
Minecraft 119 is right around the corner, and look at all these blocks we got to work with. So today, I'm going to show you about 30 plus Minecraft build ideas. Minecraft 119. You get this one, or you can get that one. This one right here is a little sideways texture, but then you can face it downwards, so you get this cool look to it. And then
see mud on the floor, it goes so well with black stone, a little bit of the muddy mangrove root, mixing in some of the lichen on top of deep slate tile, and getting a little bit of that contrast over here with the mossy and with the tough block. Adding some of the dead bushes on top of the muddy mangroves. You can use this for like a big old army tent. It looks really, really cool. Mixing in a little bit of the mangrove, some of the brown terracotta, green terracotta, some dirt, some brown concrete powder, and some brown wool like this. It looks pretty awesome. As far as flooring with mangrove, I got some of the strip design, adding a little bit of that deep slate tile, some black stone over here, some of the polished
That is
glaze,
so
nice little
fucking cool.
archway here, adding some mangrove on the sides, and then some of the lovely pearlescent frog lights right here, surrounded by the mangrove trapdoor. Here's another very simple one, just with a mud brick wall, some mangrove fences, the fluorescent lights here on the top with the trapdoor, and then a baby of a design down here, just with some mud brick stairs and the mangrove trapdoors. The mud bricks mixed in with some of the pack, a little bit of the jungle, who looks really, really. Look at this awesome pond over here. This is looking pretty good. We got some mud. Go around on the side. Now, next thing, we're gonna grab. Let's just do oak plank for now, and then a trapdoor right there on that gap. Give me this cool little hole right there on the side. Then let's just repeat that over here, so we can do it together. Full block, stairs, full blocks, and stairs, and that should connect perfectly to that. Make it look nice. Something like that would look pretty cool. But if you want, you can put a gate there. Also, right now, all you're gonna
Oh, fuck.
to a very that I personally was. Let me tell you right now. We've been waiting for a very long time because Conquest reforged the beautiful mod, the sexiest mod, the one of the best, if not the best. It is the best mod for building. It was creative only. A lot of people. I have a little starter house right here, baby. Another thing about this season, look at this Red Ranger, this little sexy boy. He just showered me with diamonds a little while ago. Look at that boy hanging out my house. Ooh, what is this? Give me a notch apple, you sexy boy. Sexy boy. What is this? A golden apple, you're cute. Give me a kiss. Let me kiss you. Let me kiss you. Look at that ogre face, baby. I have a little starter house, right? Look at red. Look at how sexy he looks right there in front of my house.